Hi, this is Kasian, and it's time for our weekly conference call at VectorspaceAI. We'll start with what's happening around the world. Markets remain pretty steady. Much of the virus is priced into the global markets, and that's what a lot of people are anticipating at this point. Food prices are soaring faster than inflation and incomes. That's another headline that came across the wires today. And this is related to the pandemic, obviously, where supply chains have been disrupted and continue to be disrupted in unpredictable ways. On the other side of that coin, new supply chains have arisen to take the place of either old ones or to create entirely new solutions. Global adoption of crypto, along with the hybridization of traditional and crypto markets, continues to take place. And the traditional markets are recognizing the truly global nature of the crypto markets, and this has been nothing but a good thing for everybody involved. BTC, ETH, and soon to be other cryptos, as many will look at the global crypto marketplace, very similar to U.S. markets, for example, or other indices around the world that have enabled trading vehicles. On the industry side, the NLP arms race is happening, with GPT-3 taking a leadership position, and you've got BERT and other renditions competing for natural language generation, and that's different from natural language understanding. Cambridge Quantum announced today the largest ever natural language processing implementation on a quantum computer. BTC has hit the 50K trading range, and it's pretty much trading or continuing to trade in about that range. I think it dipped down to about 43K or 42K, but it's bounced back up because of continued global demand. And ETH has a trading range of about 1,500. The Dow is at about 31.4. And it's interesting to note that BTC just zoomed right past the Dow. Charles Hoskinson of Cardano is starting a biotech focused on regenerative medicine and anti-aging, or longevity. And as we know, Vitalik Buterin invested $2.4 million into the SENS Foundation in Marin County, California, related to human longevity. And we'll talk more about that in a bit. On the themes and events side, it's been fairly uneventful this week in the markets in terms of thematic baskets. So we're not going to highlight too many, or we won't highlight any right now. We will focus on what's happening with the corp side, though. On the HR side, underneath corp, we are continuing to add NLP engineers, and these are not engineers that obviously have the exact same skill set as other hires. Some have skill sets ranging from data preparation, data processing, wrangling, to developing scalable ETL pipelines, to visualization and interpretation, to data storage and other operations like that. So we're developing a team that has many different specialties. On the ENG, engineering, product, and operations side, we've got quite a bit going on, and that's why we've been expanding our team here. And you'll notice that as a technology company, we are engineering heavy, and that just means that most of what's happening in our organization connects directly to cutting code or testing code. So that includes hiring for supporting customers, large customers such as GNC and S&P. And these are two very large customers in two very different categories. And the S&P customer relationship represents it's a multi-pronged approach for us. It represents several different avenues where we are able to get Vectorspace's name out there on the map and showcase our data sets in a variety of ways, but also showcase on an industry-by-industry basis. And we're still under engineering, product, and ops. And there has been a package recently that got pretty good reviews in terms of accolades from Silicon Valley related to the GameStonk Bloomberg terminal. And this is an open source terminal that is making the claim that you won't need a Bloomberg terminal anymore. Well, at any rate, it's getting good pickup, and as an open source Bloomberg-like terminal, we've decided to make contact with this group so that they can integrate our API for thematic baskets. We'll keep everyone updated on how that's going. And next, we've got a little discussion related to our data engineering pipelines. And pipelines is plural. That means we have more than one data engineering pipeline. And there are certain aspects of the data engineering pipelines that we're not able to talk to the public about. Sometimes they relate to proprietary data sources or calculations given to us by customers, or sometimes they relate to trial periods or agreements or NDAs or confidentiality agreements we have with customers. Sometimes they relate to trade secrets and variants of calculations or algorithms that are proprietary to VectorspaceAI. And these would be either algorithm sets that we would remain as trade secrets, or that we would seek patent protection on, add to our patent portfolio at some point in the future. The reason I'm mentioning that is because we are not going to be able to, under engineering, product, and ops, we are not going to be able to talk about a lot of specifics related to advancements that we're making with our data engineering pipelines. Optimizations, for example. We can say that when you look at a data engineering pipeline, you can customize them for knowledge domains or industries. You can customize one data engineering pipeline with a focus on human genes related to human longevity. You can have another data engineering pipeline focused on drugs repurposed for infectious diseases. And you can have another data engineering pipeline focused on thematic baskets in the financial markets, and the list goes on, or thematic baskets in the financial markets for the semiconductor industry or for the crypto markets. So the types of data engineering pipelines and the kinds of optimizations that they need are pretty complex and very proprietary. So there's a lot of work that's going to continue to go into data engineering pipelines. At the end of a data engineering pipeline, you've got a data set that can be used to make predictions or help a company make decisions. It can be used to power another company's AI or ML systems. Or it can be used during the process of artificial intelligence or machine learning operations. It can be used to visualize data or better interpret data based on looking at a graph network or a relationship network to determine whether or not there are patterns or help a group connect the dots. So the reason I'm describing in general the operations that we have to do on the engineering side is because that is what's going to be taking up most of our time. This is where the innovation happens. This is where the progress happens. Outside of that, we have strategy and other corporate operations that will advance the company into areas where we can make an impact in the markets we're addressing. We are also tuning and optimizing data engineering pipelines for high throughput testing of data sets. We've mentioned this in the past, but if anyone is familiar with high throughput drug discovery, a high throughput drug screening, that's where you screen a bunch of drug molecules to determine if there's any efficacy or any application to them. And for us, we want to enable customers to, in a high throughput way, test data sets for signal, for alpha, for profit and loss, for Sharpe or Sortino ratio, or for the data set's ability to contribute to a new hypothesis or discovery. We are also going to be constructing a new dataset engineering pipeline dedicated to space biosciences and developing datasets that enable genes, proteins, all the omics, including microbiomics, genomics, epigenomics, and research related to this, including all the possible scientific literature, so that advancements can be made in terms of protecting and repairing human DNA, which by default in large part solves for all kinds of diseases, including a lot of cancers. And that connects directly to extending human lifespan and health span. We also have our basket backtester up and running, and this has involved a little bit of engineering work, mainly on the updating side, updating time series data. So now what can be done with the backtester for thematic baskets is one can insert 1 to 5 themes, and these themes are converted to tradable baskets showing 1 year's worth of historical performance for any of those themes that were converted to tradable baskets. You'd be able to see the performance there, graphed performance. So for example, the GME basket or GameStop basket, inserting the term or the stock symbol GME would produce a basket with this interface, and you'd be able to see the historical performance over the course of a year of the GME basket, and then you'd see a spike, right, for this basket of stocks that rose right when GME spiked a few times. So anyone interested in using that can join our VXV Thematic Baskets Tier 1 channel. That's where we build thematic baskets, take in news in near real time, and construct themes, and some in fact trade those baskets. We also track performance, and that's what this basket backtester is for, the ease of performance testing. On the customers, partners, and collaborators side, everything is steady as she goes. Everything is in process, and right now it's all about our PR pipeline and the targets there for release. We have a meeting Thursday with S&P's crypto index group, and this meeting is with 2 individuals, and we'll be discussing what it might take for VXV to be listed in their crypto index. It might be the case where they've got 100 cryptos, but we will be happy if we are in that list of even if it's 100 or even 1,000 cryptos. The whole point here, of course, is that as mentioned before, we have a multi-pronged approach with many customers, and with S&P Global we've got a multi-pronged approach in terms of talking with their innovation group here, which is leading their listing and crypto indexing effort, and talking to them about how baskets can be made for cryptos, how thematic baskets can be made, and smart baskets can be made for cryptos, and the fact that we are using their data to produce data sets that generate these baskets. So we'll have a lot to talk about, and we'll have a lot to update the company on after Thursday. On the sales and marketing side, we are going to say we are throttled, just as we have been for the last few weeks, and that is because we are scaling in parity with engineering. On the exchanges side, we have got no new news there. As soon as we do, we'll announce it to our channel, if we have it before next Monday. On the IR, PR, and Marcom side, the pipeline is exactly the same as it was last week, with the exception of 2 moves. The first is we've got 2 releases we're looking at for S&P for March. 2 possible releases. And the reason we say possible is because we can't dictate the speed at which these large groups work at. We can only take their word for it and their updates. On the Cloud Quant webinar side, we have had a delay there because we have wanted to focus on the S&P relationship right now and the data engineering pipelines. Next, we've got questions from the trader base. Before we get to questions from the trader base, let me just mention under the IRPR and Marcom side that we would be looking at 2 to 3 communications to the public, and those communications would not be, those announcements would not be from us, but they would be from one of the, or at least 2 of the customers that are in talks with us now. Next, questions from the trader base. The first is, if customers can directly buy VXV datasets in USD directly from the team for 99 cents per dataset per update, what incentive does anyone have to buy it from the exchanges? Doesn't the only buying pressure to raise price then only come from buybacks? Otherwise, I would guess that nobody would buy on exchanges above $1. Doesn't it allow you to make an incentive for the team to keep the token price low since they have to buy it back? Let me repeat that. Doesn't that also make it an incentive for the team to keep the token price low since they have to buy it back? And then, this is a multi-part question. Maybe I'm missing something. Like that, not everyone can directly buy tokens from the team. We're still expecting most buy pressure to come from hedge funds who probably would have that kind of access. So my question stands. Okay. Well, first off, does anyone have incentive to buy from exchanges? Yes, they do. The people are going to buy VXV from anyone selling VXV on the cheapest, that no matter where it's from. And in terms of us doing any kind of USD arrangements with anyone, that USD gets converted to VXV. So the next part of this question was, doesn't the only buying pressure to raise price then only come from buybacks? No, that's not how trading vehicles work. When you build a company and you build value and you take in capital from the capital markets, you use that capital to build value for your stakeholders and shareholders. That value gets reflected in the price of your trading vehicle, whether that is a utility token or some kind of usage credit. That value is derived directly from the value of the datasets, in our case. As value is built, that value does get reflected back to your trading vehicle, and that's how trading vehicles work. Now, in terms of the team being incentivized to buy back tokens at a low price or keep the price of the token low, that would be manipulation, and that's not what we do. The next question is, did the Cloud Quant webinar take place or was it postponed to March? Okay, we answered that in IRPR and Marcom. It will be delayed to March. The next question is if Vectorspace can sell tokens OTC to retail corporate clients, wouldn't this have the effect of suppressing price for token holders? If we engage in any large OTC transaction, it's going to be with an investment group that's going to be leading with equity, and the tokens will be on top of that. If anyone gets tokens from VectorspaceAI, they are free to participate in the free open market. And that would mean if they have rendered a service to Vectorspace and they have received tokens, they're free to sell or buy more tokens. This is a free market. And in terms of suppressing the price, suppressing the price is not something that anyone should be actively engaged in unless they're shorts. So we're not too concerned with that. We have worked very hard in the past, and we continue to make sure that this company has a strong cap table, make sure it's nice and tight, and make sure that we limit sell pressure. The reason we do not need any kind of unnecessary sell pressure that detracts from the value of our data set. And in terms of price pressure of any kind, that again connects to the value of the data sets and the revenue of the company. The next question is, how is it looking with webinars for Cloud Quant and new data? What are the presentation plans for them? And I'll just add one more point here to this. We're focused on getting our communications to the public out, and again, that would not be us, it would be our customers here. So part of our communication to the public would be those webinars, but a more important part of the communication to the public we are working on for the end of March here. And when we mention something that is more important than something else, it is because it is part of a strategic goal that the company must meet, and this is how we arrange things. The next question, I understand that the engineering side of Vectorspace is really important, and that's why I would like to know how many engineers you have right now and how many you would need to be able to handle what giants like S&P and Bloomberg might demand. Well, first off, we are adding engineers all the time, and when you grow an engineering team, it certainly isn't just a matter of adding engineers. What we are doing is scaling the engineering team properly, and of course that includes a lot of knowledge exchange. And that takes time. We are dealing with the most complex software engineering in the history of humankind, and that involves the tip of the spear, AI and machine learning operations that mimic human cognition. And right now, growing our engineering team is a top priority, but that has to be in parity with our capital raise as well. So we're getting there. Next, we'll move on to strategy. We mentioned that OpenAI's GPT-3 and Google's BERT and a few others are competing on the NLG side. We compete on the NLU side, and the difference between NLU, natural language understanding, and natural language generation would be the difference in being able to construct a thematic smart basket versus talking about a thematic smart basket. Because our focus is on the NLU side, our benchmarks are also different than NLG. And this is mainly commentary for data engineers that are listening in. Our benchmarks are based on profit and loss. They're based on the Sharpe and Sortino ratio and based on risk analysis. The better that we tune a data set, the better performance will get, defined by not a SOTA benchmark, but a Sortino ratio. On our data engineering pipelines, as we construct better data sets and optimize our pipelines, many people do not know that one of the reasons we focus so much on our data engineering pipelines, not only is it the core of our operation and the core of our technology here, data engineering pipelines are used to validate real-world outcomes. So, for example, with CERN, a particle is accelerated and smashes into another particle, and data is collected. Maybe a new particle is discovered. With the data engineering pipeline, you could create a data set that would predict that same outcome, that same particle, that same interaction between two particles. Because of that, because of an accurate prediction, you can now rely on that data engineering pipeline to make additional predictions with confidence, some level of confidence. When you're dealing with genomics, you can look at two genes or proteins that interact with one another. You can do an experiment in a wet lab and understand that there has been a validated relationship between two human genes. With the data engineering pipeline, you can create a data set that then could predict those relationships. And if you can validate a prediction like that with the data engineering pipeline experimentally in the real world, then you've got a valuable data engineering pipeline that can make additional predictions, valuable predictions. And that, of course, connects right back to what we do with natural language understanding and data set generation. That will benefit advancements in the area of human longevity, lifespan, extending lifespan. This is something that we've worked on at Lawrence Berkeley National Lab a while ago, and we continue to work in this area. And as we mentioned, Charles Hodgkinson of Cardano is starting a biotech related to this, and we know that others in the crypto space are beginning to focus on this. So we intend to communicate, open up dialogues with these groups, in addition to other groups that want to fund efforts in this area and help advance research in the area of extending human lifespan. And one of the reasons that we've worked in this area is because it does relate to, again, space biosciences and protecting and repairing human DNA. They kind of go hand in hand. If you can solve for extending human lifespan, then in large part you're solving for space biosciences. If you're solving for space biosciences, in turn you're in large part solving for extending human lifespan. And it just so happens that human lifespan will need to be extended if deep space travel happens, which it will, in terms of humans needing to travel light years to potentially habitable planets. This has been a recorded call, a pre-recorded call. Last week we had a recorded call and live at the same time on Discord. We'll do that again. We'll leave it up to our administration staff to determine when we can do that again. We had a couple of glitches, but what we're trying to do, our goal is to open up a live forum so that we can have more interaction and more questions take place. Almost more like a live shareholder conference call, which will also be recorded. Thank you for joining. We'll see you online.